Good evening. Welcome to Bull Fierce. It is June 25th, 2020. This is my second or third broadcast, and we'll still be working out a lot of kinks. I'll introduce myself to those who are just starting to follow. My name is Perry Larrabee. I've been a competitive and a non-competitive bodybuilder for over 40 years. And I've decided to take my whole platform to the social media. And as well, I'm actually establishing a brand new training facility, a number of other projects. And I just wanted to jump in this 150% because I all of a sudden developed a very strong interest in the sport. Well, I never lost interest, but after 40 some years, things do happen, and things got in the way. It didn't become the focal point of my life, but I've always had a desire and a passion for this sport. And really that desire and that passion is what is driving the title of today's topic. For those that are involved in the bodybuilding aspect of things, they'll be more relevant. But to people in general, I mean, most people are not in the dark when it comes to drug use or drug abuse in sport. It's extremely, extremely out of control in the bodybuilding world, bodybuilding and fitness world. We hear about it in all types of sports: baseball, hockey, basketball, track and field. It's all over the place. They try to do testing on events. We're going to get more into the validity of the testing. We're also going to talk about, some of the horrendous things that are happening. And I mean, it is pretty scary out there. It's very scary. I have been out of the competitive side of things for many years. And during my illness, which happened a couple of years ago, I had an opportunity to do watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I was totally appalled at the state of things. I had no idea that things had gotten to that extent. I knew guys were getting bigger and bigger, and but that was really just a small part of what was going on. Getting big that's almost totally irrelevant at this point. What they're doing to themselves is absolutely scary. You need just take one evening or take 20 minutes and just type in, steroid abuse on YouTube, and you will see videos of stuff that you don't even think is even possible. What people are actually doing to themselves, and it's not even nice looking. And I like, I'm all for a well-muscled physique and, a good reasonable body fat level. I mean, I like all that, but what is going on out there is absolutely ridiculous. It's lethal. It's actually absolutely lethal. And what's really scary is it's not just being affected. It's not just that 20 or 30-year-old group or whatever, so-called adults that should know better. It's grown into the younger crowd, kids that will never ever compete, in their teens. I mean, literally in their very young teens, older guys and ladies in their 50s and 60s. Like, I don't believe that many of these people have a clue what they're actually doing to themselves, and or don't believe that anything really terrible could happen to themselves, let alone the psychological aspect and how it really takes away from your actual accomplishments. So why don't we just start by defining what we mean by steroids in general. Steroids in general are really just some type of derivative of testosterone. Testosterone is a male hormone. Females do have some, but a very small amount normally. Men have a much greater concentration of testosterone in their systems. And number of years ago, I mean, originally, testosterone was actually, or synthetic testosterone was actually developed to help in regeneration of tissue and growth, or for people that had growth problems. But like anything else, something like that came on the market, and it definitely got abused almost right away. And for some reason, the sporting industry gets a hold of something like that, and they just take it to the ninth, right? No holds barred. I mean, steroids in general have been around. I'm going to take a shot here. probably even before I was born. So we're going to talk here over 60 years. I don't quite have the date. I should have done a little bit more homework, maybe on the actual origins of as far as from the medicinal side of things, when it was actually developed. But it's been involved in the sport, in the Olympic sport, for years and years. Steroids in themselves are actually a very small component of what is going on in the world now. The steroids that are on the market in general are not the scariest thing that people are putting in their bodies. People are turning now to growth hormone. Growth hormone's been around for a lot of years too, but in the last 20 years, it's escalated. Now they're actually using insulin, playing completely with their hormonal system. They're playing with insulin. They are using something called synthol, and I think I have a video clip where I'm going to share with you people. You're not going to, and this is one of many, but you're not going to believe what people are actually doing with themselves with this stuff, just in order to get noticed. Even though many of the competitive bodybuilders are doing it for lacking body parts, we're talking about steroids and drug and performance enhancing drugs are being used by the general population to such a great extent now. It's craziness. When I was in my teens, I mean, literally, it was rare to see somebody with a really super well-built physique going around. I was one of the few. It was not a mainstream thing. Now you just go into the bar and every Tom, Dick, and Harry's, wearing a tight T-shirt and sporting some vascular arms or whatever the case might be, and 99% of them will never step on a stage. So they're sticking needles in their ass and they're popping pills, and some of these people it's craziness. They're actually on regimes, drug regimes that are the equivalent of some of the pro athletes. It's craziness. They're taking the same type of stuff in the same amounts as some of the pro athletes. Not everybody's developing to the same degree, which is, the old argument about, it didn't matter whether you took steroids or performance enhancing agents out of sport, the same people would still be at the top. Well, there's an argument for and against that. First of all, many of the people that are at the top of the game would never even be in the game if it wasn't for drugs, because a lot of them are just plain lazy. They have some basic gifts, but they don't have the heart, they don't have the tenacity, they don't have the drive to take it to the top. But the drugs that they're taking, take over and enhance some of those qualities. And, next thing you know, they're doing much better than the average Joe. I'll give them this. You take two individuals, one with, really good genetics. And when I talk about genetics, I mean, good metabolic genetics, good structure, good muscle insertions, put that against, somebody who doesn't have, the greatest structure, the greatest metabolism. You put either one of them on drugs or off drugs, and yes, the more genetically gifted individual is going to do far superior every time. But there's something that's even more scary that people need to know, that today, do you know that there's studies around, there's actually been studies done where there are drugs out there that individuals can take where you don't even have to even do any exercise and you will gain lean muscle mass. That's the state of where we've gotten with things. You do not even have to exercise. And granted, you're not going to become a Mr. Olympia like that, but just think about it. They're offering some type of magic pill now where people can, just take an injection or pop some pills or both, and all of a sudden they're growing muscle. Well, we have our society has become so vain and so me-driven, so egocentric that, they'll do anything to get noticed. Hard work for many is not the one thing they want to do. Hard work will get them the same results, but they don't want to do that. They want to take the easy way around. So for those that have been out of the loop, or really you're just a bystander from the outside, and you may not be getting the full grasp of what I'm saying here. When I was in my mid-teens or early 20s, when I started training and I was doing my first set of competitive years, and there was a group of athletes around that point. Of course, when I started, I wanted to believe that they were all natural, and they got to where they got just through hard work. Very naive, but that's what I wanted to believe, of course. And I learned differently as we moved through. And it was, the stars came and went. I never idolized any of them, including Arnold, which most people can associate with. There's a number of other individuals as well that were just as well known at the time. But I was still, flabbergasted by the sport. I mean, I loved the sport, regardless of the drug abuse that was going on. But I had no idea at that point, even though back then it was nothing compared to where it's at right now. Back then it was just too much for me to comprehend. So I just couldn't believe that people were doing that much stuff just to win a trophy. Because back in those days, there wasn't even any real money to be made in the sport, not in the actual shows themselves. And very few people made a living outside of the shows. Arnold was the exception. Arnold was just an exceptional individual, period. He didn't just train like everybody else. He didn't think like everybody else. So he was the exception. But people need to know. Let's just back right up here to what we're talking about doing here. Guys and girls are both stepping into this this realm. They both are. It's not out of the ordinary to see so many athletes, both male and female, all using some type of drug enhancement. Some of them are using anabolics. Some of them are using cutting agents. Some of them are using skin thinners, diuretics, and sadly, many of them are using a combination of all those things. They have so many things going on in their bodies that their bodies are no longer in control. And when they finally do have to come off cycle, which you do, here's the lowdown. You can either stay on cycles forever, and I guarantee you're going to die. And I don't think there's even a pro out there who, especially maybe a past pro, that wouldn't agree with me there. If you never came off your cycles, there's a damn good chance you were going to die. There's a good chance you're going to die anyways because of the amount of stuff you're taking, but you're almost guaranteeing it's going to happen. So for the ones that are smart enough to go off cycles, then you have to deal with all that loss. And for some of you individuals out there, I just want you to take, maybe when this broadcast is finished or after you've looked at this video, take a few minutes and look at maybe Google in or YouTube in, Olympia winners now and then or whatever, or, bodybuilders pre-contest, post-contest. Take a look at some of the pictures. Literally within 2 or 3 months apart, you can see pictures of people that have won pro shows that you wouldn't even recognize as a bodybuilder. That's how drastic it is. It can make you that good, that fast, and it can make you that bad, that fast. Same way. But think of the psychological aspect of that. You're riding such a high when you're taking stuff. I mean, it's like it's an addiction, just like any other drug addiction or like an alcohol addiction. Anything, it doesn't matter. Addictions are addictions, period. You begin to rely on them, and it becomes part of your lifestyle. And you do not go through a day without getting your fix. And what is it doing to individuals? It's screwing up themselves up mentally. It's ruining if they had self-esteem issues before, they're far worse now. It's breaking apart families. It's causing instability, personality instabilities, familial instabilities. It's terrible where it's brought things. People do not even, associate with each other in a normal fashion anymore. I mean, this world already is taxed to the limit as it is, as people interacting properly because of the technology age. But, you bring into something like psychological altering drugs, and I don't mean, LSD and things like that. Although, just a little side note, many of the people that are really, really deeply involved in performing fantasy agents also into, recreational drugs, which just complicates matters even more. It's not unusual to have some of these people taking 7 or 8 different drugs all at the same time. They're taking drugs to counteract drugs because they don't know their body can't even do it anymore. They're turning to what they call gurus to show them, how to prepare for a show. All my years of training and preparing for shows and winning shows, I never turned to a guru. I learned about my body. I learned myself. And any good natural athlete has done the same. You don't need a guru because you look at 99% of the gurus, they don't have a muscle on their body. Or if they ever did, they've lost it all. And why is it? Because they never had passion for the sport. If you have passion for something, you don't just lose it. Almost every guru that I know barely has any type of physique whatsoever. And, that's not a slight at them on a personal level. I'm just talking from a professional point of view. Most of them don't even look the part of a bodybuilder anymore, yet they're prepping people for shows. Is that who you really want to put your existence, your faith and your existence on? Individuals like this? No, you shouldn't be. Anyway, so you have this tremendous physiological alteration, you have a psychological alteration, and a dependency. And these things all work in concert to create a completely altered life. Many people, whether it be, and it used to be just in the sporting industry, but now because it's become more of a recreational type of thing, they don't even, it's affected how they interact with each other in day-to-day life. You can go to any bar or just take a walk downtown here in Edmonton. I mean, I can take a walk on White Avenue, and there's all types of young guys in there, they're barely in their 20s, and they got, somewhat of a physique. Many of them don't have great physiques, but they have certain body parts, and they're so proud of it. And it's all drug induced, completely drug induced. To the rare ones that are not, my apologies and my hat's off to you, because you're a rare thing, because most of them are not. The sad part is you're being influenced, and you're so easily influenced the second you walk into a gym. I watched a well-known individual who has a large following on YouTube, and he does a show, several shows on a regular basis. He's well known. He's been training people for years, and 90% of his show is just on which drugs work and how they work, and that's it. Barely do they ever talk on subjects such as training. It's a drug show. It's become so accepted in today's society that it's sad. It's very sad. How it ever got to that state is beyond me. Freedom of speech has just been taken completely out of context. And I mean, it's got to the point where these people are they're not just dealing with other adults. They're influencing young kids. On this guy's show, I kid you not, I was watching his show when I was hospitalized. I was watching his show. And, for a while I had interest in it because, first of all, I was just appalled at what was going on. And I had to read more. I wanted to see more about what was going on. And when he was talking, one show in particular, he talked about some man came in with his 16-year-old son. And he basically wanted him, I think this son was involved in sport, football. He wanted to get some pounds put on him. And he wanted this gentleman to help him get ready, and so he could qualify. And the discussion was basically centered around drugs. And this gentleman who has his show, I kid you not, I heard him say on the show that, well, if his father thinks it's okay, well, then who am I to say anything different? What type of bullshit is that? Does people not have any morals at all? I mean, if you're going to sit there and think just because Joe jumps off the bridge, well, I can jump off the bridge too. No, it's the same analogy. You have the moral obligation to not influence and not help individuals go down this type of slippery slope. If you want to be any type of an ambassador for the fitness and training industry, you totally separate yourself from that stuff, and you fight it, which is the platform I'm taking. I'm not here to make friends. I still compete, and I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of haters moving forward, and that's fine. but I can back up my what I say with over 40 years of knowledge, and I can guarantee you, I would debate to say that there's anybody else out there with that much knowledge and still training and training hard and doing it naturally. I don't know of anybody, but if there is somebody, I'd love to hear from you. And I'm hoping you're natural, and I'm hoping you're still training, and I'm hoping you still have the passion that I've always had. Let's talk about some of the drugs that people are actually using, and just and what's happening to them. Let's go. Basic steroids in themselves are almost passe, but what's happened is people are taking so many different compounds that when they go off the anabolics themselves, their system can no longer produce testosterone. Like, they've been on so long that they do not have the ability to, their testosterone levels are so ridiculously low, and they're never coming back. There's many people in that boat, and they're not all pro athletes. There's many people that just, they just liked it to feel good. And they are on what they call TRT therapy, which is just testosterone replacement therapy. Because everything is basically some type of, modification on testosterone. And that's the state of anabolics. People take it like candy, and they don't usually take one. They take 3 or 4 of them at a time, and they alternate them throughout their cycles. Other things I already touched on: growth hormone. Growth hormone has the ability to literally regenerate bone growth. And you will see this in many individuals. If you ever seen people with one of the telltale signs sometimes is a protruding forehead or a overstated forehead. Sometimes the jaws enlarge. You see the teeth, spacing of the teeth. You'll also see, literally, you see elbow joints distended. Numerous things. It's absolutely retarded. People are actually altering their body like that. Then you get into something like insulin. And many people, one of the bigger things these days is running a compound mix of both insulin and growth hormone together. That's just flipping scary. It's absolutely scary. People don't realize, hey, I can relate more than the average person because of almost losing my life a few years ago. I ended up losing my pancreas. Your pancreas is what's responsible for your insulin production. And let me tell you, you do not want to be screwing with something that's that important in your system. But people, especially young people, they feel like they're just immortal, right? They don't realize the extent of what they can actually do to themselves. So they're playing with insulin now. And people have, I'm going to go through, talk about some of the recent deaths in sport in a few more minutes. People are taking insulin to the point where they don't realize they put themselves into diabetic comas and they die. They become hypoglycemic because they injected too much insulin in. And then many of them, they're combining diuretics and skin thinners. And you have to understand what these systems are doing. They're having such an effect on both your endocrine system, your digestive system, your elimination system. I mean, we don't even hear about the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what has been happening. But in the last 5 years, I'll backstep just a little bit. Most of those gentlemen that I knew when I was growing up, or at least maybe 10 years after I started training, a lot of them are already dead, and many of them never reached the age of 50. Did not even reach the age of 50. A lot of well-known bodybuilders have died between the ages of mid-20s to 40 years old. Isn't that sad? Just to take a few pills. Most of them never won a major event. Never won a major event. Dead and gone already. Just think of the devastation. They didn't just, that's how selfish people are. They didn't just take themselves out. That's somebody's brother, somebody's father, somebody's sister, somebody's son, somebody's daughter. And we only hear about the well-known people. You really think that is all that is out there that is happening? That's craziness. People are dying left, right, and center from performance-enhancing drug abuse. It's more of a pandemic than COVID is by a long shot. People don't pay attention to that because they don't even have a clue to the extent of what's happening there. One of the latest things, and it's not that late, it's been around for a number of years now, people actually got to the point where it started with the professional bodybuilders. You know, they would create this physique that was unbelievable to most people in the first place, but they may have lagging body parts, or it just quite wasn't what they, what they wanted. They wanted something a little more, they just wanted to, that chisel here or that little size increase there, and they couldn't achieve it. They had a lagging body part. They started injecting oils directly into their muscles. The original drug was called Synthol. But like anything else, that drug was not safe, no more than any other drug is safe. But it's got to the point now where people all around the world are using different forms of all types of oils and injecting it in their muscles. They're using literally mineral oil and injecting it in their muscles. People are killing themselves. They have no idea. They think their bodies are, I don't know. I'm a Christian, and you were given one body and you're supposed to take care of it. Let me tell you, if you think that body you were given is totally indestructible, you're even less bright than I thought you were. Sorry if you need to hear, sorry if that sounds insulting to some people, but that's the reality. If you want to do stupidity like that, and the fact is there are so many people that are doing that. In the last 5 to 8 years, well-known athletes, we've probably lost 15 or 20. And we've had others having devastating injuries, losing limbs. Sad part is some of these other people who had near close calls are still abusing it. That's craziness. It just wasn't enough to almost die. But we have people as old as young as in just basically into their 20s. I think there was a recent death in somebody, I'm talking more well-known because I can guarantee you there's teens that have died much younger than 20 years old. Of course, if their teens are much younger than 20 years old. But there's several in their early 20s that have made it up. 20-year-old kids, sorry, man. You don't build any type of muscle that you're able to compete on a pro stage by the time you're in your early 20s. It takes years and years to develop muscle, but you've escalated it so far, so fast, that your body is just, it's a ticking time bomb. And we've had many 20-year-olds pass away. 20-year-olds. Isn't that sad? I don't know which is sadder. The 20-year-old that's, so easily, drawn into that, or the 50-year-old man or 60-year-old man that's, trying to recapture his youth and, and didn't do it through hard work through his whole life. I don't know which is sadder. But either way, I'm hoping this video, if it does nothing else, maybe spark people into getting off their rear end and realizing that you got to make some change. I'm going to just round out this video. There's so much more to say on this, but I have a clip here, and this is all about a gentleman that uses Synthol. He actually injects himself with some type of freaking oil there, and it's just craziness. And he's an so-called internet sensation. And I'm not 100% sure if this is going to work. Like I said, I'm still trying this software out, so bear with me. If it works, great, and if it doesn't, oh well. Anyways, we're gonna put it on and show you what these people are actually doing to themselves. I'm not sure if you can see what's going on there, but this is some kid, I believe he's in the Ukraine or Russia or something like that. And this is literally what he's done to himself. He's in his very early 20s. I think he's barely 20 years old. And he thinks this is just cool. And sadly, a lot of the people in the community are looking at that and they aren't saying anything about it. It's absolutely ridiculousness. Look, here's a woman. It's just, I don't know about you, but I've been around for a lot of years and I still can't, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I really can't believe what I'm seeing. It's just mind-boggling, to be honest with you. Boy, I didn't think I did that right. I do apologize, but I will work that out. It's only my third day with this software. Anyways, that's a quick rundown of the state of address on where we're standing with drug abuse, mainly in my sport, the sport of bodybuilding and fitness training. But remember, it's in everything. We haven't even gone into, testing so-called natural events, fake naturals. There's so much more to cover, but I don't want this channel and my streams to be solely concentrated on that. I'd love to hear from anybody who wants to make some comments, possibly make some suggestions on topics for future shows. By the time the end of this month happens, we should be doing 3 broadcasts a week. And I want to be doing one which will be basically spotlighting individuals who are natural and have made, basically have a journey they'd like to share with everybody. I'd like to do a Q&A show as well, and one informative show every week. So hopefully you enjoyed this and you will keep tuning in. Anyways, God bless. It's Perry, CEO of Bull Fierce Training, signing off, and take care.